What's going on, guys? Welcome to this week's video. I'm Steve, and today we're going to be rebuilding the rear end out of my 1JZ swapped Foxbody Mustang. For those of you who don't know or haven't kind of been following along, I have an 89 notchback Foxbody, had a 1JZ VVTi swapped into it that I bought about 2 years ago. Didn't really work. Redid the wiring, redid the clutch, had to make a couple things with some friends, dynoed it, was all right. Then we spent last winter putting a new turbo system on it, make a little bit more power. Thing is sick. Biggest problem I have now is not with the power. Everything like mechanically works and runs great. The rear end is just not working. Because this is a 1J swapped into a Foxbody, it's kind of cobbled together. It's got obviously the 1JZ VVTi in the front. It's got a Pulsar G30 660 turbo on it. Has a Nissan 300ZX or Z32 5-speed in it, and it of course has the 488 rear end. Now between the ratios on the Z32 and the fact that this thing has a 328, 330 rear gear in it, second gear will take you from 60 kilometers an hour to 130 kilometers an hour, which is too much. So I'm trying to shorten this thing up today, make the gears a little bit more usable, because right now I'm between first and second and drifting, and second gear is like bananas long and it doesn't quite get down there low enough. So we're going to be tearing this thing down, figuring out what we need, and then rebuilding it with a 410 rear gear, possibly a spool, new seals here and there, and we're going to be doing it in a snowstorm. She's snowing. I don't really have much of a garage, but it's on days like this where it's very cold outside and snowing that I am very happy that I have a somewhat heated two-car garage that I can work on stuff in the winter, even if it is not really that warm. This is a C-clip axle. I gotta take off the rear diff. I gotta pull out the pin that holds the C-clips in, pull the C-clips, pull the axles out, and then I need to undo the two caps that hold kind of like the, I don't know, whatever the hell you call it, the ring gear, the carrier in, pop that out, pop all the shims out, and then I gotta press the pinion out through this. Full disclosure, I've never done this before. People say it's easy, doesn't sound easy. Looks like we have 10 half-inch diff bolts holding this cover on. I have no idea what's in this diff. It says it has welded spider gears, but there's a lot of play back and forth. I'm really interested to see why there is so much play in here. All right, so mystery number one has been solved as to why there was so much slack left to right. This thing said it had welded spider gears, but it looks like they only welded the top and bottom. They didn't actually weld the sides together. Here's my cross pin right here. I gotta take this guy off, pull that out, take the cross pin out, and then I should be able to pull the C-clips on these axles. So I couldn't figure out where the C-clip was on this. It's right there. Oh boy, you can take this guy nice and easy. So I got the axles over here. I believe these are 28 splined axles, but they are looking pretty good. Got a mark, D for driver, P for my passenger. Here's where we're gonna get real squirrely. I gotta pop the caps off. These cannot be mixed up either side. So these caps are specific to each side. I'm gonna take them apart and label them. But in addition to the caps being side specific, there's also a couple shims in here, which you cannot swap around. We're gonna take them out, measure them, make sure they're all good, and then label and bag accordingly, and then this whole jam's gonna pop right out. Okay, now we gotta pry this guy out here. I'm having a tough time getting this carrier out because it's press fit. Slid screwdriver through here, claw of a hammer like that, so I'm pulling straight up on it. And she looks like she's about to come out. Let's see here. Oh yeah, she's out. Okay. This is the aftermath of taking this thing fully apart. Doing my best to try and stay organized. So first of all, I've got my caps right here, and I've got my bearing race. Seems like a spacer and then a shim. These guys came out and they look just like this. Interestingly enough, only a single shim on the driver's side. Passenger side did not have one shim. These guys came out, they seem really important, so I zip tied them exactly the way they are. Here's my passenger side race and spacer. Again, they sit there just like that. And this one had 0 shim. We can inspect this pinion here, which, I mean, everything looks really good on this, except for the oil and the welded diff and everything. And then we're gonna try and knock the ring gear out of this one because we're gonna have to. Here in a sec, Ford T005331. This guy right here is a 1 1/16 inch nut. I don't have a socket that big or a wrench that big or anything that big that is gonna take this thing off. So I'm gonna have to snowblow my way out of my house, go to Canadian Tire, grab one, and go back to work later this afternoon. She's definitely snowing. All right, so this thing came apart pretty well, honestly. There's still a couple things that I have to get out of here. So in the end here, you can see this piece here. This is what's called the oil slinger. When you replace the pinion or the ring and pinion on these, as I understand, you need a new oil slinger, you need a new seal, and you need a new bearing here. This is my crush washer, which I'll need a new one of these. And new bearings, new seals, everything like that. But I'm gonna try and drop this ring gear off here too. I don't think it's gonna go very well because you gotta assume they're pressed on. Got this fancy seal puller. Going to change out these axle seals because they're kind of cruddy looking. One. The other ones. Whoa! Pinion seal, then oil slinger, then my bearing here. And so next we're gonna be knocking out the inner pinion bearing. You see there's kind of these notches. Basically you're gonna get a bearing driver tool, AKA a flathead screwdriver, and just kind of tap that out from either side. I've already hit the housing with a heat gun, so it's a little warmer, probably not. And yeah, we're just gonna see what happens. That is my inner pinion bearing. So this is a visual representation of what a pinion setup is like on a Ford 88. We got our gear, we got our spacer, we got an SKF bearing on our inner bearing. This race right here is actually pressed into the case. From there, we got a crush washer right here, or a crush sleeve. Then our outer pinion bearing, which actually is gonna sit down a little bit further. It's also an SKF. We have our outer bearing race. We have our oil slinger to stop it from puking out the diff. We have our pinion seal. We then have our drive shaft coupler. Gonna sit there like that. And then we got our nut. All right, new parts time. I got 2 new axle seals. And I also got a bearing and seal driver kit. I've always kind of just smashed them in. So we're gonna see if this is gonna make it any better. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely even sure how this works. We're gonna try and figure this. See, that I think is probably, I think that's the money shot right there. See right through it. It's awfully tempting to do it like that. Cool. Tools are cool. So right now I'm trying to get the outer bearing off, and as is often required in these situations, I need to cut it off. There they come. Relocated my bearing splitter to the bottom. I'm gonna put some tension on this, hit it with some heat. Hopefully it should just come right off. Woo! Hot. Not sure if this is the move, but I always like to think it makes the bearing sit in there a little bit nicer. Oh yeah, much better. All right, let's take a look from this side. Hard to see, but there's still a little gap in there, so we're gonna keep driving. This one actually fits a little bit better. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. I think she needs a few more whacks. That sounds pretty darn solid to me. Quick little comparison. This is my 331 gear. I believe it's an original Ford. This is a Motive Gear 411. Part of the differential kit here is pinion shims. So here's my old one. You can tell by the way that it is. Measuring at 0.02. Here's my new one, 0.02. Gonna run the same thickness of pinion shims. See if that works. I'm making some lunch here. Got my ring gear bacon and also my pinion bearing. I'm gonna probably take it down a bit. 400's a little excessive. Okay. Mint. Barbecue trick worked mint. This thing is still very hot. These need like 70 to 80 pound-feet of torque. We'll let this thing cool, take it out, spray all the holes out with brake cleaner, probably put some Loctite on those bolts, and then actually drive them in and torque them down. New Pinion's gonna be the same idea. I have the Pinion actually in my deep freezer. It's been there all night, and then I have the bearing on the barbecue, about 350. So we gotta put our 0.02 or our 20,000 spacer on first. Then I gotta drop that bearing on and just kind of smack it down the last few inches. So wish me luck on that one. Trying to work semi-fast here. Here she is, frozen pinion bearing. In a deep freeze last night, I don't know, 12 hours. 20,000 spacer. Woo! That worked mint. 80 pound-feet. Torqued and marked. Got to be pushed in from the back. The way this thing is going to work is we got our 20,000th spacer. We have our internal pinion bearing. Next is going to be our uncrushed crush washer. It'll look something like that. Once it gets crushed, kind of looks more like this. On the outside, we're going to push in from the outside the outer pinion bearing. Then we got to put our oil slinger on. Then it's time for a new seal. And then we're just going to give her some ugga-dugs. Okay, let's put this guy in here. I should put my right hand in here. But anyway, okay. Pinion. I got this bearing semi-pressed in here. There's still a little bit of slack. Gotta put my oil slinger in here. And now I gotta put my seal in backwards. Something like that. I think something like that, yeah. And then we'll put this little guy back in for a couple more dugs. So when it comes to reinstalling the carrier or the ring gear, or whatever you want to call it, don't make the same mistake I did. Whichever side has the spacer and the shim, install that side first. You can put both of your races in, but make sure you only put the side with the shim and the spacer in first, then put the opposite side that has no shim in, because you're going to need to whack it in pretty hard. So now that we got this thing all in here, we got the pinion in, we have to set the pinion preload, which is somewhere between like 16 to 29 inch-pounds. Basically what that means is there's not like a torque spec for it, there's a resistance spec. So we have the crush washer in there and we have to crush it and squish all the bearings together just so this spins or takes roughly 16 to 29 inch-pounds force to spin, and then we're good. So I got a pretty janky setup here. I'm gonna walk you through how I'm testing it. This is my huge 1 1/16 inch socket that goes from a 1/2 inch to a 3/8, a 3/8 to a 1/4 inch, and this is how I have to measure it. This is basically how you measure it. That's the resistance of the bearing preload. Now I can't let go of this because it's gonna fall. So people online say like it's about 200 pound-feet of torque to get this thing properly set. I'm gonna show you how I'm doing it. Torque wrench is set to 250 pound-feet. See what we can get going here. Woo! This is not easy. So just as a heads up, to set the pinion preload was a little bit interesting. Put it together, it was over 270 pound-feet of torque. I got freaked out. I took it all apart, which I know you're not supposed to do. Just remeasured all the bearings, looked at my crush sleeve that wasn't even crushed yet, and I still had a little bit of forward and backwards play on the pinion. Everything looked fine. Put it back together. Didn't even come near 250 pound-feet of torque. Got that sleeve to crush, and now we're at 25 to 28 inch-pounds of resistance. So I did the wrong thing. We got the right result, and now we did it, boys. We're at 29 inch-pound-feet of torque, 25. It is time to limit the amount of slip that this differential is going to have. We're going to put the old Lincoln locker, Everlast locker on it and finish the job that was started here. My original plan was to get a spool for this thing, but then I found out when I took it apart, it is actually a limited slip differential. a spool is not going to work in a limited slip diff. So we're going to take this up to my boy, Chris Wilson, and he's going to lock this thing up. I do have to be careful about this. It's not going to be as easy as like an E46 diff that I welded up last time. The 8/8s use C-clip axles with a cross pin to keep everything in. So I'm thinking we might plate one side, but then keep the opposite side free and open so I can get my C-clips out of here and of course make sure that this cross pin doesn't go anywhere. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take an axle, and I'm gonna take one of my C-clips up to Willie's shop. We're gonna lock this thing up and hopefully get one more step closer to getting this thing back together because I gotta put it back in the car next weekend. Get him, get him. Once we plated the backside of it, we found this cross pin was just a little bit tense. We didn't like that, so to try and relax the gears, we tacked the four corners of the other side. Now, leaving one side open is super important because we're gonna need to slide the axles in with the cross pin out, drop in our C-clips, push it back, and put this cross pin back in. It's finally time to try and start the reassembly of this thing. I've never set the backlash of it. Preload is good, so that's the one big thing that's already done. Now, I'm gonna clean this thing up again, put it in, check the backlash, and then just see what my tooth pattern's looking like. I don't really know how to adjust it, so I'm just, we're gonna figure it out. Measure backlash on an 8/8. Spec is supposed to be 8 12,000ths of an inch of like how much that gear, that slack between the ring and pinion has. You're gonna need one of these fancy things called a dial bore indicator. Never used one before. I think I just got crazy lucky because, like I said, spec is between 8 and 12,000th. And here's what I'm dealing with. 11,500. I mean, for the girls we date, I think that's gonna be just fine. So we rotated the ring gear a few times, checked the backlash on it. Everywhere I'm getting like 11,000th, which is really nice because I don't actually have any more spacers. If we were getting a loose reading, we would have to put more spacers on like the drive side to push it over closer to it. Spec is 8 to 12. We're 11.5, so we're a little loosey-goosey, but we're within spec. I'm gonna call this good enough, and we're gonna move on to tooth patterns. We're gonna check the engagement of the pinion on the ring gear. This is the last fingers crossed moment. Then we can put this thing back together and be done with it. So, in my handy dandy kit, which I got from Rock Auto, there's some marking compounds on here. What we're gonna do is, I'm gonna paint on, say, 3 teeth. We're gonna rotate it a few times, and then just see how these teeth are meshing together. We don't want it too deep, we don't want it too high, we don't want it too proud, we don't want it too soft. So, let's see what happens here. I'm gonna paint the front and the back side of a tooth here. Let's go. So this is forward. So I've rotated this thing a few times and I think I've gotten insanely lucky because I don't have spacers and I don't want to do this. Basically, this is my very ham-fisted attempt to explain this. It's not too far in, it's not too far out. You can see this area where the paint has rubbed off on these 2 teeth here. Those are the drive side teeth, and basically what you want is kind of like a nice smooth pattern that's not too far in, it's not too far out, it's not too far up, or it's not too far towards the center. And this is looking pretty darn clean. On the back side as well, that's kind of my decel, nice pattern. I think I'm gonna be okay to run this. I'm checking with Jason. Like I said, if you had to change this, you know, you're shimming stuff left, right, but my backlash is within spec. My pattern is looking good. So some way, somehow, I think I've actually pulled this off. Just basically reusing all the existing shims, which is awesome. So still waiting for the final okay from Mr. King. And once it's time for that, it's axles in, cover on, fill it up. Good night. Okay, that's our fully locked up C-clip axles. One side pinned together, other side fully locked up. So this thing nearing completion. Backlash is good, pinion preload is good, tooth pattern is good. I had to shave down both of these axles just to kind of make them fit with the C-clip. Like I said, when we were at Wilson's, gears kind of sucked together, so it wasn't quite clearing. So I just shaved a little bit off the end. I don't know if that's gonna do anything. But this thing is ready to put a cover back on, and I'm not putting the old cover back on because it wasn't serviceable. You could not drop the oil, and I like to, every couple events, just kind of drop the oil out of this, see what it's looking like to, you know, really give myself some extra anxiety. So, I got this little number off of Rock Auto. It's, what make is it? It's, China. So, we're gonna be slapping this little rig on here. All right, this guy's been sitting here for a little bit. We're gonna torque all these bolts, crisscross applesauce. Ta-da! So unfortunately, when I finally got my new rear end back up north to get to the Mustang, after leaving them sitting there for months looking like Lieutenant Dan.
Well, you ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan.
It was still too snowy to get this thing outside. Despite it being mid-March, there's still about 2 feet of snow on the ground and about 2 feet of snow on the lake. But it was about 15 degrees, and we knew this was going to be the last chance we'd have to get on the lake, so I did what any reasonable person would do and took my 1981 Yamaha Enticer 250 for one last rip around the lake in my t-shirt. So that is going to do it for this week's video, guys. I somehow managed to bumble my way through rebuilding a 410 in this car. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to test it out because it's still winter, and there's a little too much snow up north for me to be able to get this thing out. But car is back at my house now, and next video, we got 1 or 2 more parts for the mistake to really dial it in ahead of the season. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. Helps us do more cool stuff for the channel. We appreciate you. See you next time. First start after a few months here. Let's see what happens. Where the fuck are the keys? This nut just came flying out of my exhaust. I think it's time for an eviction.